All India Radio. Seithikadambam.
சென்னை அரசு ஸ்டான்லி மருத்துவக் கல்லூரி முன்னாள் மாணவர்கள் சங்கம் சார்பில் முன்னாள் மாணவர்கள் சந்திப்பு நிகழ்ச்சி அதன் வளாகத்தில் நடைபெற்றது. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியில் சிறப்பு விருந்தினராக கலந்து கொண்டு உரையாற்றினார் மத்திய அறிவியல் மற்றும் தொழில்நுட்பத்துறை இணையமைச்சர் டாக்டர் ஜிதேந்திர சிங். அவர் பேசும்போது,
We have a number of research studies now to show that more than 70% of India's population is below 70. That's why India is called as a young country. But that is only half truth. The life cycle in India is growing biphasically. So while the total percentage is below 70, is 70% below 40, the elders are not going to quit. I think that is one aspect which is sometimes weighing on my mind, because we have boys and girls who have the aptitude, who have the aspiration, who are deserving. But maybe they are not able to afford the medical education. In my and your times, maybe we had never heard of a private medical college. We could not even imagine that there could be something like a medical college in the private sector. The culture was like that. There was not complex of, being whichever strata of society you belong. And that sometimes I think why I am saying so, after I heard the Dean, even at the level of the central government under Prime Minister Modi, this aspect has been taken care of in the last 9 years. From 2014 till now, we have actually moved on to 145 government medical colleges in the country to nearly 260 medical colleges. So what we had, I think this less number of medical colleges in the government sector gave the space to the private industry to start these colleges. So they may not necessarily be medicos by aptitude or by commitment, but they were from the business houses and they began. But more and more, if we have the medical college in the government sector, we would be able to make up for that paucity. Even the number of undergraduate seats in the last 9 years has gone up by almost 70-80%, and postgraduate seats by 93%. So there is a very conscious effort on the part of the government led by Prime Minister Modi to provide affordable, accessible medical education. Because if you don't have that, you would not have the right kind of medicals. The other day I was in an event, we had the President of Indian Medical Association, who is no longer now, Dr. Ramamurthy, was once upon a time the head of Department of Orthopedics in MMC. So he made a very beautiful remark. He said, we are producing thousands of medical graduates every year, but the question is how many doctors? And now, with the artificial intelligence having taken over, I was telling my friend the other day, the Vedanta tycoon, Naresh Tarayan, I said, if a patient whom you have operated comes before you, will you be able to identify? He said, don't pull my leg. I said, no, because you are seeing it on the inner circuit, closed circuit, and your residents are operating. So, I think that is something that medical education needs to be carefully looked into, and that also gives the kind of the kinship. Otherwise, the alma mater that the Dean was so emotionally referring to would not be an alma mater. It would be just kind of a window shopping center. You come here, shop according to your requirement and go back and then forget who was there. So I think we who have seen that time, we've seen the times of transition, both in the terms of the disease spectrum, because when we came in, it was the sanatorium era. The posting of tuberculosis used to happen in Seithikadambam. Now we graduated into the lifestyle and the metabolic disorders. So we saw the transition of disease spectrum. We also saw the transition of diagnostic and therapeutic tools. And now we are on the verge of being taken over by artificial intelligence. So we have had an advantage also in that sense. So I think some of us can contribute. And I was talking to Dinakar, I said, when we have this trust, we could also think of, making some contribution to add value to the medical education that we are practicing in this country. Very recently, I brought in a legislation in the Parliament called the National Research Foundation, which is on the same lines as we have in the USA, Germany, and some other countries. We didn't have the concept over here, which is going to be a broader think tank. We have the scientific fraternity members in that we would be having industry in a very big way, because of course you need industry to sustain, but you don't have to work on their terms and conditions. You have to make them stakeholders. And we have also made a room for social scientists, humanities, so that the Indian contexts are not lost. So that is, I think, one important matter of concern. And yes, Dinakar said that we could, of course, I'm also looking after the Department of Biotechnology in the Government of India, and we are into the process of collaborating, supporting various biotechnology projects, the research initiatives. And from the point of view of a medical college or a medical institute, we could think of something related to genes, which is the in thing these days. And if you could come up with a proposal like that, we could, in fact, we were, I think, a long back, about 20 years back, the first stem cell work on in diabetes mellitus happened in PGI Chandigarh. So since that was an institute on the lines of AIIMS, but Stanley is in itself one of the most pioneering institutes. In fact, it's older than all the AIIMS and from the British times. And many of us, in fact, till a few years ago, till 20 years ago, because now it's been long, many years, so you can't even count years, because if you count your years, when you passed out, how many years have been passed, particularly the area where I am now, they expect you to retire and hand over your parliamentary constituency to another person. So without hazarding that risk. But the point is that till a few years ago, about 20, 30 years ago, whenever I came here, they would say, do you belong to that batch where they taught statistics and English? So we were taught statistics because maybe they gave us an idea or maybe an aptitude about the data collection and the importance of data, which is no longer happening now. So now that we have a uniform pattern, because Stanley, being from the British era, was following another pattern at that time. We had that integrated MBBS course, as most of us did. So that had its own virtues and its own merit, which is no longer now, because now we have a very democratically uniform pattern all across India. But some good things which were there in the earlier curriculum could still be inculcated, if not formally, it could be to a large extent informally as well. So the trust could also actually contribute and work on those lines. We are into one of the phases where the medical education and the scientific fraternity as a whole is now almost at equal pace with the rest of the world. As was being mentioned, as for the launching of that Sun mission happened today and the Chandrayaan the other day. You see, America was the first to land a human being on the surface of moon way back in 1969, Neil Armstrong. But it was our mission Chandrayaan which got and picked up the pictures of the presence of water or water molecules on the surface of the moon. So that speaks immensely about the human talent, human resource we have. The other day I was in Germany and I found most of the health startups there preferred to have Indian boys and girls. I met a lot of them from Andhra, from Karnataka, a lot of them from others. So I was keen to understand why they preferred Indian boys and girls. So they gave me a long list of reasons. They are hardworking, they are dedicated, this, that. So we have some inherent virtues which could be actually converted to our value addition. But I sometimes wonder who would actually look into that, because everybody is in such a great hurry. So much of hurry that you have to talk to the person sitting next to you on the mobile. Because if I start talking to him, he takes up the mobile. So he prefers to talk to the person who is on mobile rather than talking to the person who is right in front of his face. So you have to do a WhatsApp to attract his attention. So actually we are getting used to these new fancies. So I think this is also a transition phase for India. But what is heartening is that our acumen now is being recognized across the world.
இத்துடன் இன்றைய செய்தி கதம்பம் நிறைவு பெறுகிறது.